right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Town Council work session on Monday, October the 13th. Town Manager, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mayor Eaton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Adam.
Here.
Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Buccellato.
Here.
Councilmember Maldonado.
Here.
Councilmember Bessina.
Here.
And Councilmember Bedford.
Here.
We have quorum.
All right, thank you very much, sir. With that, item number 3 is our call to the public. Call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Town Council. Council rules limit public comments to 3 minutes. Individual council members may respond to criticisms made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or act on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion. I have no papers of anyone wanting to speak tonight. If there's anyone in the audience or anyone online that would like to speak during our call to the public, please raise your hand. And this is our only call to the public tonight. All right, with that, I don't see anyone. I'm going to close call to the public. Item number 4 is our work session regarding our topics. 4A is a discussion on annexation process. Thank you. Bruce, you want to introduce this one, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Council asked us to come back with some potential opportunities for an annexation in the town of Florence. Tonight we'll have Mr. Larry Harmer go ahead and present. Larry?
Thank you, Bruce. Mayor, members of the council, you have in your packet a pretty complete summary of annexation and annexation policies, but one of the reasons why this has come up, obviously, has been with the recent incorporation of Santan Valley. And if you looked at some of the maps that are within your packet, you see that they have encroached well within the town's planning area, as recognized in the general plan. And so there's been concerns about what they may be doing in the, probably not the near future, but the not too distant future as far as expanding their corporate limits to take in other potential areas where tax revenues and revenue sharing might be applied to them rather than the town. So it's appropriate for the town to really start looking at annexation potentials. You've recently processed a couple of annexations, the one about a year and a half ago related to Attaway Farms, and the one more recently, I forget the development, the PUD, Skyview. But I wanted to go through tonight just as a summary, if you will, of what it takes to do annexation. The packet from the League of Cities is very comprehensive, and I would encourage everybody to read through that in more detail, especially when it gets into the legalese of how you process one. Processing an annexation in Arizona is not an overnight process by any stretch of the imagination. Depending on the number of properties, the configuration, number of owners involved, things of that nature, annexations can take as much as 18 months. That's going through all of the petition approvals, or the ordinance approvals up front, and the petitions, and then requiring signatures within the appointed time limit of 12 months, and then going through the notification of various agencies, and all the things that go with it. But I think for point of summary, what we put in the staff RCA really is meant to pare it down to the basics that the council needs to be aware of up front. I should also note, you have staff in community development who has processed these last couple annexations as far as knowing the advertising deadlines and the things related to that, public hearing notices and such. They have that pretty much down pat, I think. ARS, Arizona Revised Statutes 9-471, outlines the basic requirements, the ones to be most aware of when you look at annexations. has to do with contiguousness, how they attach to the town limits. Annexation must be contiguous to the town limits. And in creating a new annexation, it cannot create a county island. It cannot enclose property that would remain within a county. It must be complete. Exterior boundary has to be at least 300 feet of contiguous property and at least 200 foot in width, excluding rights of way. As you move distance away, you can expand length and width proportionally. To the point that the annexed area can be no more than twice the maximum width of the annexation getting there. Now, I say that or point that out specifically because in some cases you might have a targeted property far enough outside the existing limits that it might take more than one annexation process to get you to where you want to be. And you have to go through the various length and width configurations to get there. It takes some pretty detailed study through a GIS process so that you can get accurate measurements and mapping. And then on or before the date of the annexation ordinance being adopted by the council, you're required to have a plan or policy procedure that shows or demonstrates how the municipality will provide services to that property within a 10-year period. And those services could include surface transportation, water, sewer, police, fire, and those things need to be taken into account, especially when you get into police and fire, when you're looking at response times and distances. Some of the things to consider in an annexation when it comes in, or one that the town may wish to be more proactive on, and you can go either way. You can wait for a property owner to initiate it, or the town, if you so desire, can initiate an overall, at least conceptual review of an annexed area. You have to be able to develop, and these are costs related to it, preparation of legal documents for mapping the length and widths and dimensions of an annexed area, legal descriptions of properties, things of that nature. The mapping that would also depict that, the research preparation of list of property owners. The county assessor is required to provide a list of property owners and addresses within, it says 30 days of the council adopting an annexation request. It's more likely it's going to take them 60 days or more, depends on the number of properties involved. If it's a developed property or residential subdivision, for example, they're going to have to do it for every individual property within that subdivision. That can be an extensive amount of properties and listings, and it takes them time to process it. Usually there'd be a request or requirement by the town for some kind of a cost-benefit analysis. What are the costs that the town is going to incur when you annex a piece of property? Is it going to be for the extension of for sewer or water systems or roadways? Is it going to be the possibility because of our PUDs up north where we have pre-annexation agreements? It might be for the extension of services for public safety, fire station in order to maintain our service ratings within a certain service area. The same thing with police. Whether it's a substation out of a fire station or something of that nature, what are going to be the costs incurred by that? And then the types of revenues that you would expect. If you're doing residential, you can look at the potential for revenue sharing based on per capita basis, but there's also going to be on vacant property development impact fees, permit fees, construction sales tax, things of that nature. So those things can be reviewed and related. And typically, a cost-benefit analysis extends out or is done over a 10-year period. How much expenditures versus how much revenue over a 10-year period. In certain circumstances, you might want to require a 15-year period. Then cost related to legal advertising, that's fairly simple, but obtaining the signatures for the annexation petitions. Typically, and there are several companies out there that's their specialty, that they provide petition gatherers, signature gatherers. So that's another cost that could be incurred, typically, again, by the party asking to be annexed. And we wanted to, be able to go over all of these with you so that you understand that it's just not a matter of we want to annex this property and we take some kind of an action and we're done. It takes a period of time. Of importance to the town also is because of our proximity to state trust lands. In a couple of different locations, we have state trust land butted up against the town's corporate limits as we now stand. That takes a little longer. The state of Arizona Land Department has a process prescribed by statutes, the administrative code that walks you through how you handle that process. I've been through it a couple of times recently. It's about 50 pages long of legalese. But the short version is you have to work with the real estate division in order to ascertain whether or not the land in question has a relatively near future potential for development, what that development might be, whether it's going to be residential, commercial, industrial. Typically, State Land Department wants to sell residential, but they like to hang on to and lease commercial and industrial because of the long-term return that it comes back to state land. Excuse me. If you've studied state land history, it is basically set up to serve 13 different state agencies. The people look at it and usually relate to public schools as much as, and that is the majority of them, but there are other beneficiaries in state land, and that's what state land will look at when they start looking at the disposition of properties, is which agencies it's going to benefit, and is it timely for those agencies to take benefit from the financial return of selling or leasing of the state land. Something else they take into consideration. Once state land, real estate department has decided that it's provident for them to move forward with disposition, then it goes in front of a advisory committee, if you will. In the past, at least when I've been in front of it before, it was the governor, the state attorney general, and the state land commissioner. And they would have to approve it before then it would be or be allowed to be annexed by a municipality. Once they do that, then it gets added into your timeline as far as the overall annexation. So if state land is involved, you could be looking at as much as a 2-year to 36-month time period to annex state land. However, sometimes the benefit of going through that process outweighs the time. If you look at what Apache Junction has done with what is called Superstition Vistas, that was, I ended up annexing that one for Apache Junction back in the 90s, and it took a long time to get it through the process, but you can see the benefit that Apache Junction is reaping from it now with all the development that's happening along Ironwood Road and the first phases of the Superstition Vistas development. That's kind of a summary. I think what's really important, though, is that the town currently does not have a formal annexation policy. The last couple annexations, because they have been single owner, really hasn't presented any issue. But if you're looking at multiple owner, I think that's something that is probably needs to happen in the forefront as far as establishing a policy. I think as far as process procedures, what the developer or property owner is going to foot the bill for, what the town is willing to absorb, and the rationale behind each one. And then also, I think, setting certain priorities as to what the town feels are going to be the most beneficial in the short, mid, and long term, as far as what properties to be looking at and which owners you might want to be proactive in addressing. With that, AJ, what did I miss? Anything? Okay. And I can make up more stuff if you need it, but I think that might be a good way to just to leave it and let the council kind of talk about your thoughts and goals and aspirations, and if there's anything that you would ask of us to study further or to proceed with the policy. I imagine you could do that by consensus without violating any open meeting laws. I'm looking to Lisa to tell me yes or no.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
The last time that there was an attempt to annex the Crestfield Wild Horse area, was there a specific policy that we were going to utilize then? Was there a town or anybody's that we were looking at then to maybe copy off of, or?
We have an old adopted policy. I provided it to the team, but after that time that it was adopted, they basically said there was no more annexation policy. So we didn't have a policy on annexing or not annexing. They were just dealing with them as they came up. Prior to that, it was, we were going to annex everything as quickly as possible. You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Well, I think we're behind on getting an annexation policy put in here. We've had a year with knowing Santan was going to go for vote, and we've known that. We need to get on this and get on it fast and hope they're not listening before they do, because they had a lot of stuff stolen out from underneath them by Quinn Creek. So let's get busy in my position. I mean, I'm one, but we need the town staff to get busy on putting a policy together and getting it to council quickly, hopefully faster than a strategic plan, but because it's going to be important we get moving on this, I think.
Just as an observation to that, I think that's a good point to bring up, and that's why I went into state land specifically. I've forgotten the exact number of acres, but it's about 2,400 acres of Santan Valley when it included about 2,400 acres of state trust land that Pinal County had already processed a comprehensive plan amendment. Comprehensive plan in a county is the same as a general plan for a city or town, but they had already processed a policy in their comprehensive plan that, quite frankly, allowed a shortcut for state land to develop. It allowed for state land or a potential developer to process anything on that property as a minor amendment to the comprehensive plan for the county. And what that does is it shortens advertising and things like that. Now, that being said, arguably, they've got a couple of years of getting their act together. I'll go back in my history a little bit, and a couple of you already know this, but as a consultant, I helped two other more recently incorporated municipalities in Arizona get up and running. And one of them has been 20 years now, and they're not even close to even thinking about trying to annex anything, because it's not an easy thing to do. But I agree. I think we need to proceed on establishing one.
And I agree. There's state land, like off of Arizona Farms and Hunt, that is, to me, stuff we would want to annex for the out years, and possibly a big commercial site for another, let's say, Gilbert Market, mall, Santan Market, Santan Mall area that would support Santan and Florence and Coolidge. But that would be out years. But we have to own the land to get it declared that, and then the council to be able to say that will be commercial in the future. And I'm talking 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Well, and I think if I could add to, so when we talk about thought processes in the years past, so and we're going to talk about a number of things tonight and different thought processes, that it's not really because we've not had a policy, it's just been the way of thinking and the thought processes. And I will tell you, because I not only was a director during this and council agendas or council guidance, previous councils, even previous to our current council members that came over here with us, was that just letting them come to us. And we also have addressed this in our general plan with our planning areas. So that's kind of been a little bit of the guiding document up to here now. I 1,000% agree with, I believe, looking around and hearing that we absolutely need to do this, and we need to do this now and get a policy going so we can know what to do. And then and I do want to clarify something for anybody online I can't see or in the crowd, is that these maps that are up here are part of the packet that is on our website. You can go to and look at the maps that we're looking at here as well. And but I think you're absolutely right. And the state land, while it's not hard, what I did hear from your comments is that you've done it and you've been successful. So that's always exciting, Larry, when I hear that out of you. So it's on camera, so you said it. So.
And it was a totally different political package at the state level back then, too. I mean, that was back in Fife Symington and Grant Wood days, and those are long stories I won't even get into. But one thing I think is important with state land, and to focus on it just for a moment, and AJ reminded me earlier that the railroad junction, that if you notice on what would be my left, or straight ahead for those of you on my right, the areas in blue are state land properties.
Yes.
And that whole area is state trust land. And while, an attempt could be made to maybe get, probably from a logical perspective, we wouldn't be doing that right up front because you'd be creating a big county island. So doing the part at the junction of the two railroad lines, however, could be a very important one to proceed with. And we've identified that in the general plan as a potential state land annexation and commercial industrial commerce type hub.
Well, I did hear you about we couldn't create an island between us and that land that we want annexed. So we'd have to look at everything that's in the center of it. And of course, we got to hope some residents would come in and say, we'd like you to consider our area. Yeah. But we do have some developers like El Dorado off Arizona Farms and Attaway that's currently broke ground, and they're going all the way to Felix, if I understand, right, with some land. So that's one landowner, so that's an easier try to get an annexation.
As long as we don't create the island, that's
Yes.
we run it. The town already has one island, and the way you can get an exception is that island, because it's still state trust land. And that's where Florence Copper is. There is actually an island of...
Doesn't Bonnie live on an island?
I'm sorry?
Bonnie Barriola, doesn't she live on an island?
Well, that's in Chandler.
Yeah.
That's surprised she ain't on there tonight. I live on an island.
That's in Chandler, yeah. So, but no, and that's good. That's good stuff. And creating in the small island, we've also got a couple small little areas that could be created an island over off of Felix, and we need to make sure. And I think this is when Larry says that it may take a number of annexations to get to where we're at. It's basically chess and checkers, right? Is what we're trying to do, making sure they're contiguous. And something that we've ran into before, and I've ran into in other jurisdictions, is making sure that they're not just contiguous to where they butt up against at a small corner. They have absolute dimensions at minimum that they have to have to do it. But we have a lot of those dimensions.
Yeah, well, you've got, between the El Dorado land, you've got Crestfield and Wild Horse sitting there, right?
And those are good examples, Crestfield and Wild Horse. As I was mentioning earlier, the timing, how long it takes to do these things. We would have to be acquiring, I don't have an exact number in my head, but somewhere in the range of 450 property owner signatures in order to annex those areas out of the total number of lots.
Better than 2,000.
Well, regardless, it's a lot of signatures.
Yeah,
and in that particular case, again, it's important to notice that the one-time fees that we might get from a vacant piece of land aren't out there anymore. They're developed.
But the nice thing about getting those signatures there, if they're interested, is the El Dorado one in its current state, we would see a lot of impact fees coming in with the new homes being built, am I right? So there's a benefit to spending money to try to get those two, to get the other stuff above it, that we have to have those two first to get the rest, if I understand you right.
And that's what we'd have to look at, is what would be the right steps, on our checkerboard in order to get to those properties.
And then to the west, we're dealing with Copper Basin,
And that's where we, and then going to the west, just to remind you,
Basin Magic
we do have
Ranch.
the Gila River Indian Community. That counts as a
Copper
municipal
Basin
boundary
Cemetery,
when it
sorry.
comes to annexation. So we can't, again, that's part of the closure. We have to be
Yeah.
careful.
But, yeah, but the big reward is if we could get that state land and it was planned for the future for big commercial area, the town would see some great revenues possibility 10, 15, 20 years and on, if we think the future with all the homes we have coming here.
Yeah, back in the day, we, for example, in Buckeye, and I've said this to the mayor and other people before, I was a director there and worked for Buckeye for over 10 years, starting at around '03, and we are now where Buckeye was then. And it took them 15 years to get the railroad line as a prime hub for bringing in industrial and whatever, but now they can't develop it fast enough. And I think we could be in that same position with the rail spurs that we have out there.
Yeah.
So, Nicole?
I don't remember exactly what the main reason was for not annexing Wild Horse and Crestfield the first time. I lived out at Crestfield Manor at that time that was going on. And I do remember there was a huge uproar from the Wild Horse community about them having to get rid of some of their animals that they had already had prior to the annexation or the possible annexation. And I think that's where it's going to be a very good idea for us to sit down and draw up a policy talking about those things, who's grandfathered, who's not. And I think that would be the key point in selling that annexation, because I don't think there would have been that much opposition if that was the only reason. I just remember living out there, there was people with signs like, you can't take my horses and fight and, this and that. And it really didn't make sense to go and have people who bought horse property get rid of their horses.
But
It's just something to think about.
Isn't that just a zoning thing? We would vote to zone wild horse for horses?
I would say, and AJ, go ahead and say, because that was something that we would probably want to preload in prior to and start addressing. Is that correct, prior to?
Yeah, and I think that when we're talking policy and how to approach this is ultimately we're going to large property owners or house by house, and we're trying to talk about the great aspects of being a resident here in the town of Florence. So the policy, understanding what those folks bought into when they purchased that home. We have zoning districts in place where it would fit in, and I think that anybody in the future would know that's a part of Florence where this is the lifestyle in this neighborhood. So no, I think that we could very easily handle it by a policy and ultimately the subsequent agreements that would bring them into the town.
Yes, we would have similar above Arizona Farms over there off of, is it Cooper Road? So, yeah, that's horses and stuff too, so. if they
And according to
wanted
statute, if we annex properties like that, we have to bring them in and establish a zoning classification that is no more restrictive than what they enjoyed in the county.
Understand, yeah. I understand, I don't see a problem with it personally.
No?
So question for annexation, how does that work for BLM? Is it different?
It's been a few years since I've dealt with BLM, and the last time the town dealt with them, it had to do with the Post and Butte and acquiring property there to, turn that into a small regional park. BLM, the last few times I've worked with them, and it's been a few years, they were reluctant to sell off any properties for development of any kind unless the municipality, and in the specific case, had leased property and were using it as a landfill. And they wanted to get rid of that so fast so they wouldn't be responsible for the closure and the environmental concerns. Other than that, BLM typically doesn't have a process or a policy for selling of land. However, I'm not aware of any prohibition from annexing it. You would still have to work with them and have them acknowledge it, but typically federal properties there's not much issue with, but they need to be involved in the process. And and in BLM we do have a certain amount of that borders or is very close to our corporate limits or within our planning area itself. But yeah, they are, the hardest part with them is getting a hold of the right person to talk to. Because when you work with a bureaucracy that large, tracking down the right person who can sign the right documents that we need in order to keep them included is harder than it is to get a yes out of them.
With that being said, I know last year Apache Junction, I think they bought or they got some land from BLM,
They bought the rodeo ground.
the rodeo ground, yeah. So I would say still, if that were the case here, we would probably hook up with them and see who they had.
Well, and that was exercising their agreement that they had with BLM like we have with our rodeo grounds on that as well. So I think I just have one more comment and then we need to open it up for other comments. So I think the main thing, as Larry has talked about, is the cost benefit. So the cost benefit has to benefit our current taxpayers as well, because we are going to now start spreading our services out. So something that we really have to look at is that within a certain amount of time that we have to offer our new citizens that are come in the same services that we give our current citizens. So one of the things that I've always looked at really hard is that cost benefit and what's this going to cost us as to what we're going to benefit from it cost wise when we don't get those one-time fees. That sure makes a difference in it. However, of recent months, the last year that I've been in office, is that I'm also seeing our dwindling revenue streams, and where HERF and state shared revenue, or the head tax, if you will, for the folks that are out there, means more now than it ever has. And while we'll miss those one-time benefits, we still get some benefit, and hopefully that benefit, we have to weigh that out to make sure that that benefit still will serve their services with that. So with that, Vice Mayor.
I'd like to actually follow on what you're saying, and it's all about the cost benefit. This feels very scattergun approach. I kind of would like we need a policy, I agree. But a higher level is just like your mission statement. Why do we have this policy? Why would we consider annexing, and what are the critical marks? To me, it's all about economic development. I'm all about commercial development. That's why I'm looking at annexation. And what I want to know is combining the plan that I believe you and AJ, I don't know who or where that is, that we were supposed to be doing an inventory of our available properties, right? To look for potential developers to come in, and what type of commercial development might you do in this area using our general plan, knowing our knowledge of the area. And to me, these two dovetail. I don't see these as separate entities. It should be one discussion. This is Florence, this is what we have for you right now, Mr. Commercial Developer, and this is the kind of thing we're thinking. Does this sound interesting to you? Rather than just taking a look at the map and saying, oh, well, Santan's here and we're there. To have some ideas. I still don't have a handle on what type of commercial industries might be applicable for us. So I'd like to kind of get that gelling.
Councilmember Neal, do you have anything?
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I don't work computers very well. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What I was gonna say was about the same lines. With annexing, it's very tricky, and we really gotta be careful. Annexing, I believe annexing land is great for industrial, like Vice Mayor was saying, anything that's just land is great. When we talk about annexing neighborhoods or communities that are already developed, there are a whole bunch of prices and fees and things that I think that our staff, I would like to see where anything that we're even thinking about annexing, our staff goes in and gives us as close to hard numbers as we can get on what type of money that we'll be into or we'll be at a loss going for these annexations. That's just what I would like to see, because we don't want to grab something and then be on the hook for several $1 million that the town does not have or won't have in the near future, is what I was trying to get out. Thank you.
Mayor?
All right, thank you. Yep.
I agree with everyone saying. I'm agree with what you're saying. The one thing, a couple years ago when you looked at Wild Horse and Crestfield Manor, we didn't have anything beyond the railroad track because all we had was Pulte. But today we're developing Felix all the way down to Hunt with homes and stuff that we're going to have to service. And eventually, most likely, I'm going to bet there's going to be a fire station up there somewhere, or maybe a police station. But that puts them in the area of the 5-minute, 6-minute window, which is beneficial at no additional cost to us because we already have, 10,000 homes going in up at that corner that we could service easily and pick up the few that we have to. So there, like I said, I agree with you on additional costs, that if we did Crestfield Manor and stuff, we'll see additional costs. But with Felix being developed, it does help us for that cost.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I agree. That's probably one of the only ones that I would be considered that would be good if we was to try to, or other folks annex that already communities that would be outside of our response time. But I would absolutely agree. Those two areas would be specific to, it would probably be the easiest to service.
And let alone we got Skyview coming up.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and
we've gotta look at.
there are fire station sites that are in some of the sites that's coming up there as well.
And
So-
with all that's going on up there, it would even open up, and I've seen some chatter on some social media where even, is it Magna East up there? It's still being developed. They're asking about, should we go talk to Florence? So with everything we have going up there with fire services and police services we're going to have, it does set up us to do it at no additional cost, but bring us some more revenues to help pay for it. So.
Yep, I agree. So moving forward then, I think it's safe to say that, do we have a consensus to get our team to start working on this policy sooner than later, that we'd like to see that, and then kind of moving forward, because I can see us as this, obviously, and thank you for the presentation, Larry, this is a 20,000-foot view, kind of looking at it, and so everybody can kind of go through now our packets and kind of look and see what it is. But I think the policy right away, and I know that there's some templates out there for policies and kind of looking at some of that stuff, kind of taking in account what we've discussed tonight when we're thinking about larger properties, that kind of thing, if we're not already covered in our codes and how we would code those in our zones. So Larry?
Yeah, just as a side thought, and I don't want to commit the town to anything, but just recently, I believe you approved a contract for probably, personal opinion, the best economist in the state to do some work regarding transportation and roads, Jim Rounds. And this is one of his specialties, is cost-benefit analysis and those types of things. So it might be worthy, AJ, that we have a visit with him. Does he have some kind of a pamphlet, brochure, formula, something that, wouldn't really cost us anything that he could pass on to help us put this together? Because personally, he's the best. He worked for Elliott Pollock for many years, and a lot of you may know that name. And then went off on his own, I don't know, about 8-10 years ago, something like that. I've worked with them, both of them, over the years, him and Elliott, but I think the world of Jim Rounds, and the fact that we have him under contract to do other work of this type, I think, is very beneficial.
And like I said, I'd be interested. I've been reading about the new federal opportunity zones that came out. We're included in that, being under 50,000. So I'd be curious how many folks try to move on that for building and bringing jobs to our town before we reach 50,000 and take advantage of it.
Well, and these programs are absolutely what we've talked about the last year about everything. It's the shovel-ready stuff. When these programs pop up like this, that we're ready and we're able to do that. So,
So, I don't know, I know we had talked about this before, and I think it was in our last session, but talking about fire department and and police department. If you guys haven't been out to Gila River and check out their new police department, it's state of the art, and I can help facilitate that because I was there a couple weeks ago in training, and their facility was awesome. So if we need to get ideas, I think we visited, or you guys visited, I think Eloy or Maricopa. So, but the Gila River, I can help facilitate that if y'all need to.
All right. Very good. So would it be fair to ask what a good timeline would be that we could possibly expect to take a look at this again? I know it's fair to ask, but is it fair? Yeah. Not that I'm asking permission, I'm just asking what will be. Let's be fair, and then cut a month off of it.
Is it something that could be contracted out to help put together, taking it away from staff? I mean, helping them out?
What are we thinking? Is this something at a 30-day, 60-day kind of window?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, we've already been kind of semi-working this. We had a meeting before this one here, so we've kind of already started looking at fire departments and police departments and policies. So we think we can probably get you something in about 30 days.
All right. Very good. Sounds great. So is there any other conversation on this? Any other comments or questions? All right, I do want to make one comment. So we had someone online that had their hand raised. I just do want to remind that this is a work session. We only have one call to the public, but we would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. Just email us any questions that you have. But during work sessions, we do not take comments from the floor or online. Thank you for that very much, though. All right, with that, I would look at our item 4B. Larry, once again, thank you for that. AJ, I know that your team put a lot of work into this, so thank you guys very much for that. So items 4B is a discussion on transportation projects specific to Hunt Highway and Attaway Road. Andy and Lindsay.
I don't know. Is that what it does? Is that it?
Is this yours?
Yeah.
Then yes, sir.
Thanks. Good. Oh, that's not us. I stand corrected, Chris. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Lindsay. There it is.
Okay. Arrows.
Beautiful. Oh, thanks.
All right, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Sorry about that. So I'm going to have Lindsay chime in where I go astray, and also like AJ to chime in where I may go astray, because
that's a lot of pressure on you and Lindsay, AJ.
So what we're doing here tonight is to talk about, we have, in our capital improvement program, we have the intersection improvements and Hunt Highway improvements for Attaway at Hunt Highway. And what we've been looking at are two alternatives. One was the T112 project, and that T112 was really a realignment of the existing intersection, but it starts, if you go over to fire station number 2, it begins at the end of the 6-lane Hunt Highway and comes around, goes across the magma flood district or flood control structure, and then it kind of meanders up about 1,000 feet to the north and creates a new intersection. And the premise of this was because of it being, and I don't like this word, so I'm going to say it was a perpendicular angle versus the askew that it's currently at. There's another word that engineers like to use that I'm not an engineer, so I won't pretend. But that being said, So that was that project, and it came back, and we'll get into the prices and that kind of thing. What I wanted to share with you then, we have T91, which is a project that was started back in 2020, and at the time, we had a problem with the San Carlos irrigation ditch crossing at Attaway, and it didn't provide us enough width so that we couldn't get the queue widths and the queue lengths for Attaway to enter into Hunt Highway. So with that, it kind of got put aside, so to speak, but what we ended up finding out later on was after our conversations with Skid and some other folks, we do have 100% plans. So with that comes some assistance that we need from the council as to which direction that we want, which direction to go, I guess is basically what it amounts to.
Andy, just real quick, and I am so sorry to stop you here, but
No worries.
I think we should back up and actually, I can do it, or one of you guys do it, kind of why we're talking about this right now, when this has been a can that's been kicked down the road for about 10 years. So, and why we're having to just have this discussion and give guidance on this. Do you want to do that, or you want me to kind of go why we're here?
Well, I'll let you do that because I've only been here since March.
So I think, and I've had a lot of comments from some of our citizens knowing that this was on tonight. And while we have been hearing for the last year, we were starting this in July, we were starting this in October, and why are we having this conversation right now when this is a project that's been out there? So all of that is true. So this project has been talked about for some time, and again, this, in no other terms, is this has been put off and put off and put off. Now we have a price on this project that way exceeds our budget and the monies that we have in a dwindling revenue, that kind of thing. So what we've done here is that we've asked our team to come back, give us some alternatives. Looking at what we're being presented tonight are some great alternatives, but it still either fixes the problem 100% or it fixes our present problem. And so that's kind of why we're having this discussion right now. And Andy and Lindsay will get into the numbers, and you'll see right away kind of where we're at on this. One of the other things that we have been really up against is our right-of-way purchasing, and that's kind of where we started going down a different road a little while ago. Is that there are a number of owners in this. Not difficult. I'm not saying anybody's being difficult. It just is a lot to go through to get this thing rolling. And council is 100% on board with, we got to get something going here, and we got to get this through. So anyway, I just felt obligated to make sure that people watching or people in the audience knew why we're talking about this, because this was supposed to be started already.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Could you also reset on what is this project? Is this just taking out the curve at Attaway, or does it include widening Hunt Highway? What do we mean by this project?
Okay, I will then let our professionals give that then. So yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That's a great segue. So where we're going from here is, this is the T112 striping plan that they've created for a four-legged intersection at the intersection that would be built about 1,000 feet north of the current location. And with that means that there are 4 lanes coming in it, or there's 2 lanes coming in, 2 lanes going out on both sides of the intersection on Hunt Highway. And then there's 5 lanes, if you will, 4 lanes on Attaway Road, which you would have a shared left turn, or you would have a through right turn for the north leg of Attaway at this new T112 project intersection. And so then it was basically to carry that 5-lane section, if you will, from the fire station 2 on around across the structure and then make a little curve up into creating that perpendicular angle, which you saw on that left side. So going forward, this is what our design engineering firm came up with. We had hired the EPS design group, and they came up with this particular striping plan and as well as the full design of that particular road.
One other question. You said we have 100% design plans for T112. Do we have 100% on 91?
You're right lockstep with me. We have 100% plans for T91 as well.
So we're on firm footing when you say what our guesstimate price is. Thank you.
As long as we start the project tomorrow. No, I'm just,
So if I can add with that also, so if you can talk about the differences between the two projects and the right-of-way purchases.
yes. So let me finish with this. So basically what we've identified here is that with the Wilson design that we paid for, and we found out that we had 100% plans, it provides a through movement going from west to east along Hunt, creates a right turn lane for the people going east to southbound. Going north on Attaway, you can make a left and go west on Hunt, or you can go on the right turn lane and make a right to go east on Hunt. And then there was a through movement and a left turn for the westbound Hunt Highway and southbound Attaway, to go southbound on Attaway. So, that being said, we feel, and we actually, to take this, then we took both of these intersections, this one and this, whoops, and this one, whoops, I'm going to, no, there. And we hired a company, or we'll have a company under contract, and had them run a level of service, which is basically to tell us, this is how the intersection will operate from now until 2040, or some period down the road. And based on both of these intersection improvements, we would get a level of service C in 2040. So what we're saying is, and that's at a PM peak period or an AM peak period, you would have a level service C, and it goes from A to F. F is being the worst. So you can see where that particular component would kind of plays heavily into either one of these. It improves it greatly.
Andy, so T112 gives us off of Attaway a left, a right, and a straight up through Attaway into the new subdivision, Attaway Crossings, and the commercial going in on the south side of Attaway, southeast. Your T91 does not. So when Attaway Crossings comes in to start a development, this has all got to be fixed again, right?
This is where we would work with, I believe, and I'm going to look to AJ to help me and Lindsay, but this is where the development then has to pay for half-street improvements, and so thereby the other north leg of that intersection would end up being built by development.
And there's no way if we did it all correctly now, they would have to pay anything? We can't,
Correct.
if I remember,
Well, I
we
don't-
can't
yeah,
go back
I
and
don't
get any money from them, right?
I can't answer that question. I don't know. That's maybe illegal or AJ's.
I think historically, we have struggled with clawbacks, is what you're wondering, and I think that this state specifically struggles with clawbacks on that. So that is the entertaining portion of T91, and I think that our citizens speak and have spoken a lot about development paying for development, and so, and this is a typical, in my view.
Well, this fixes the problem that I know the residents in Florence Merrill Ranch want to see, and anybody that comes down Attaway, regardless of where you live, wants to see, or those coming up from Florence Gardens that want to go to Coolidge and out to Phoenix or whatever. This fixes that problem right there. The question is, how big of a mess are we going to have in a couple years, 2 years, 3 years, if all this has to be redone again? And then we're saying the town would have no financial responsibility for that.
No, as far as my understanding, any of the improvements that would come after this point would be developer-driven, so that they would have the access and they would have to go through our community development department and get PUDs, and they'd have to go through the planning process, like through Planning and Zoning Commission, et cetera. So that's where we would start to figure out exactly what those half-street improvements would look like.
Yeah, and if I remember right, the reason we were doing the T-112 and taking it out there from somebody previously that worked in that department said, we have to straighten that Attaway.
Yes.
Okay, it's angled, needs to be straightened. Are we still saying it has to be straightened in the future?
I've had multiple engineers tell me that we have them all over the state of Arizona, these askew types of intersections.
What I thought.
And so, I guess from an engineering standpoint, you would want it perpendicular to each other. I mean, a perfect square, however Lindsay, help me out. I don't know how you guys think, but everything has to be laid out just the way it is in that perfect grid. But it's not to say that that's why I shared the level of service. No matter what we did, either one of these intersections, you're still going to have that level of service of C.
Okay, yeah.
Right, and so when you get the level of service C, I'm assuming you modeled it with some subset of the development we're expecting to come. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So one other question. T91, Pulte's wanting to widen somewhere down Hunt before you get to Felix. Are we going to take T91 down to their property line to join them, or what's going to happen in between?
I think we'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to finish my slides. And
Okay, go ahead.
if that's fair. So T91, in essence, we think is going to cost 3.6 million. We have all the right-of-way that we would need. Okay. We have a very good relationship with SKID, so we'd have to make some minor engineering adjustments around the SKID ditch, or the SKID drainage channel, and they've already looked at the 100% plans. In fact, they were the ones that provided us with the plans. So we feel very confident that that would flow pretty well. And then you have the T112, which is upwards of 15 million and could possibly be more. I don't know does this price include the right-of-way? This does include the right-of-way that we still need to purchase for that other alternative, or the alternative that has been moved to the north. As well, this does include from the fire station 2 across the ditch, across McFlood, or not McFlood, but Magma Flood Control District, and makes the nice transition up to the north, and then that is all inclusive of this $15 million project. Okay. In our conversations with George Bannicky and the team on there, they have provided us that they're saying about 8.5 would give us addition to this 3.5. Am I right? I want to make sure I say this right. Huh? 8.5 for us to make it on the existing alignment. So we could do the same thing with 5 lanes from Fire Station 2 around across Magma Flood Control up to this intersection, up to Attaway, with 5 lanes.
On the existing Hunt Highway?
Correct.
Andy, would that be then to include, I know that 15 includes down where Tony was talking to within 1,000 foot of Felix, correct?
No, this does not include anything east of the intersection of Attaway.
The T112 did, though.
Yes.
The T112 did.
Yes.
Okay.
We didn't go that far, because then when we start to have other challenges with environmental and cultural sensitive things that we need to complete that are a little bit further to the east of where we're at with the existing Hunt Highway.
Yeah, my biggest thing is, where is Pulte coming out between Felix and Attaway? Somewhere, right? And my understanding is they wanted to join in on and get it done at the same time. So how much farther do we have to go down? Because you only going, was it 600 yards?
I don't know what
down.
No, we can find out for sure, and we can let you know.
Because I want to make sure we're going far enough that they can hook in.
Yeah, because El Dorado, I believe, is on the, I shouldn't say it that way. El Dorado will be making improvements to Felix and Hunt. And then going further to the west, that's where Pulte would then pick up.
Okay.
AJ?
And if I could, on the Pulte part of this conversation, if we're that far down and we're talking about developer making half-width improvements, we're probably not going to ask Pulte at this time to build out that X feet of Hunt Highway. We're probably looking at a payment in lieu of or something like that, because that's a long good way to go get that. And if we're not right now contemplating a 5-lane section of Hunt Highway, and we're only looking to make changes to the intersection, we wouldn't be in a position to take advantage of Pulte's requirement to complete their half-width on the frontage that Unit 53B fronts on the Hunt Highway.
Right, and I think that's where, and I think we've had this discussion where 5 lanes, 2 lanes, 6 lanes, all in 1 mile would be crazy to try to do. And I think for me, to add to this is that I also want to do it right. And I don't want to have to come back in, like you've already said, everybody agrees. If we're going to tear up, and I think first thing that comes to mind when we talk economic development, there's some projects that are build it and they will come. There's some projects that are not. And so in your mind, Lindsay or Andy, if we go with T91 and we know there's developers on the north side and there's developers on the south side that are having conversations, is this going to hamper development at all? And I know it's how long is a piece of string, right? I mean, it's kind of like, in your mind, I mean, won't hold you to it.
Well, I was going to lean to Bruce, that one slide I gave you with that Rounds provided for us with the acreage. That was, actually, I think it was part of your packet that Lisa sent out. It's basically all of the frontage that was on Hunt Highway and Attaway. And so that kind of was a return on that investment to kind of say within 5 to 6 years, you'd get 6 point, if I could look at my own notes and see it, but, and then there was another one after 10 years, you would get upwards of 10 million in tax.
Do we have that on a slide?
Is that, yeah.
It's showing page 61 of our packet. Because I have to say this one was a little confusing.
I don't have that one.
Are we looking for a packet?
I may have not sent it to, I don't think I sent it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for looking at that. Can you pull the packet up?
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda packet. Thank you, guys.
So, Mr. Mayor, while they're looking, so what is this that if we developed all the lanes out on Hunt Highway, the retail business we could expect?
Well, and that was my question. So we know that the town right now is having conversations with developers on all sides. We've got the Attaway Crossing that's already been through planning and zoning. They're already looking at that as well. And then Barclay, who owns, that has the property on the corner, we know that they're already having some kind of conversations as well. And quite frankly, as part of our negotiations for right-of-way and what we're doing there. And for, like I say, for me, there's a lot of money difference between $3.5 million and 15. Especially because that we do believe, and Carl will tell us, that we could afford the $3.5 million because it's already a budgeted item. We could get started on it almost immediately, not immediately, but we could almost move forward because we own all of the right-of-way already. So,
And I
again,
think also that the 15 million we need within 3 years. It's not spread out over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Right, so.
correct, and that's where we start talking about funding and how we're going to do that, and I won't get into Carl's portion of this, but that's just the conversation. So I will let you, whoever, is this
Now,
yours,
yeah.
or is this Andy's?
Real quick, Mayor,
Can you just kind of clarify this for us, Andy?
Sure. This was the form you, so basically what we kind of inquired with, and this kind of goes along that venue or vein that Larry was referring to. I reached out to Jim Rounds to kind of say, what happens when we do transportation projects, and how does that improve, or how does that impact our economic development? And so basically what it shows here is he's kind of took these acreages that were frontage too. So it's anything along Hunt Highway, within the limits of this project, or things on Attaway Road that would have access to either of those two roadways. And so it came out that there was about 24 acres that we were looking at. And so he kind of penciled this spreadsheet together based off of square footages, on-site jobs, average wage, and then he'd have like one time, so this is during the construction of a project, to then the operations related on an annual average. So if they end up putting up strip malls, and then whatever those, it's the actual building of the strip mall, as well as then any of the associated businesses that then come in, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a clothing store, or something along those lines. So that's kind of provides you those revenues for that. And then he kind of built this spreadsheet based on that, and then he put it as a 5-year or a 10-year tax for the tax revenue for the town that it could recover or be, no, I shouldn't say reimbursed, but would make off of that particular project improvement. And so that's kind of what this is showing.
So the 5 and the 10 years, this is in addition to current revenue, or just this project, is that right?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
The storage, the rental, whatever, yeah.
we already know too that Attaway Crossings has to put in, coming up Hunt Highway, they have to put in right-hand turn lanes, right? And then they got to put in a left-hand turn lane coming from Merrill Ranch, right, into their housing area?
And I think
All
the
right.
T91 showed that you were thinking about a left
I don't know if you want me operating this.
turn there into that.
Chris, help me out, buddy.
Sorry, guys. Thank you, though. This was perfect because this, you know, it just puts everything into numbers. When we're talking 15, 16 million dollars, we're always looking for a return on investment and what that does. What it does tell me is that investment alone can't be done
Which one?
and recovered without the help of other means.
Which one, the 91 or the?
So the 112.
Well, the 112s give us, is this based off of the 112 or the 91?
That's based.
It's actually both.
Both, okay.
That's why they're average numbers, and that's why we're kind of trying to share, because we tried to provide you with a level of service as well as the alternatives.
Yeah,
I can't predetermine, but
because the
basically
20-year payback is is $20 million, so.
It's
minimum.
a pretty rosy picture, though, considering nothing's been built yet. So when you look at 5 years from now, what do we really expect to be built and up and running and revenues coming back to the town? 6 million?
Well, I think that's something important we just have to take into account when we're talking
It's good that we have the numbers.
about these. So, yeah, because they are, and they are all, again, they're all, you know, educated guesses, right? I mean, we, you know, our team does this for a living, so, but it's still, you don't know. I mean, we don't know either way, you know, for sure. Nicole?
And I know I've said this before to you guys, but that's what makes me nervous is we don't know. And if all of our money is tied up in one project in one area, we can't do anything else with the rest of Florence. And as I've said before, we have 2 lanes coming in every direction, It's not just that, that area is horrible. I'm the first one, the day before we talked about this, I was stuck there for 7 minutes. So I get it, and that's not okay anywhere you are. It shouldn't take 7 minutes to get through one light, you know? But we just have to take all these things into consideration, and I'm so happy that we're being transparent about this, because we hope it generates this, but we're not developing it, somebody else is. And to tell them when to develop, it just doesn't happen that way.
But what he just said is if we do the T91, we get the same result, if I understood it right.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so, can you go to the T91 slide, Andy? So
I hope
Tony was
so.
talking about a left, there you go, that left-hand turn. So you've kind of allowed for that left-hand turn already, correct? Whenever they do that, coming from the fire station to Attaway.
This particular, yeah.
That piece right there. That's what you've allowed. Is that just a painted, or is that?
I would, well, I guess what the caveat I have to say here is that with T91, this is looking at this intersection like this. If we start talking about how we're going to expand it to duals and to having the 5-lane segment, we're going to start, this is where we start to creep into, we're going to need more right-of-way, we're going to need some more design engineering done, because now we're started to jump outside of what we've already got designed for 91.
So Andy, am I right? Are we doing 5 lanes from the fire station down to Attaway in
No.
T91?
In 91, this is what you would have,
You're just doing the intersection.
correct?
How much more to get it to the fire station with 5 lanes?
That's where we say that we're going to have to, go ahead, Lindsay.
Well, when we talked to our CMAR today, he made the mention, that is where most of the money is needed, is on the west side, because of the flood control expansion that we would need to do because of the extra lanes. So most of that money is needed over there, so it's still going to be close to 15 million. The east side is negligible in comparison.
So it would be close to what? I'm sorry.
The 15 million still.
Which is the original price to do that anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's the bridge, I guess, over the magma and everything, yeah.
Yep.
And I did realize that.
And did we know, we have 8 million budgeted for this project.
But just doing the intersection at 3.5, and we still got 2 lanes all the way to Florence Meadow Ranch, that has to get done eventually.
To be fair, you have 2 lanes on 287, 2 lanes on 79.
And,
two
and,
lanes
and we're
down
going to have to address that, especially once Langley starts to
there,
build
Longer.
and starts to do their stuff up to our border up there by Attaway.
I personally think, like, just in my head, because I'm so torn. I'm 50-50. I haven't made a decision. I haven't. I'm trying to see both lanes, both sides. And I think, like, in my head, I'm like, if we can fix some of this congestion right here and get it to where traffic flows a lot better, that's 60-70% of the frustration of people is this right here. It's not because they have to go 2 miles to pass ALA, because that's where the next headache is, at that school right there. That's a whole nother problem.
Well, that starts next year.
But, yeah, I know. But if we can knock out a lot of the frustration for the people that live in that area, and then start working on some other projects and help alleviate those areas as well, that's helping a lot more people with a lot more problems. Because if that frustrates you from Attaway to the school, imagine how it is for everybody trying to come down Attaway Road. It's 2 lanes. It's 2 lanes to go to Hunt. It's 2 lanes just to get there, which is a lot of why we have road rage issues. That's just my head. It just makes me nervous to go and spend $15 million on one portion when we can spend half on fixing this portion and still have some, or we could spend all of it on this portion right now, ready to go, and then we can start working on some of the other areas too. Not to say we're not going to, but.
But just remember, every out year we go, it gets more pricey.
No, I understand, but I mean, we didn't expect it to jump this far either
We
in
didn't.
1 year, you know
We
what I mean?
didn't.
Hopefully, one day it'll go back down too, and we can get everything done,
And
but.
remember,
that's where-
equipment on site is also a cheaper deal to do more, because the equipment's already here.
So I have a question. So I'm kind of torn also between the T91 and the T112. It's a big difference in price, but I would feel better and I know my constituents would feel better if there's a way that we knew, like just for example, like we said, hey, we're gonna pull the trigger on 112, and then have these developers come in. It's like, okay, well, let me go ahead and pay for my portion. I would feel, and my constituents, I think, would feel better in trying to, get this one passed. That's my 2 cents.
Mo, do your constituents understand we don't have the money, right? We're not sitting here with the pocketbook saying, gee, I don't know if we should spend it. We will be taxing to pay for this.
Well, and I think that's, for me, and I get it, and you're absolutely right. I agree with everyone here. And I think that is the beauty of this, because and how many times do we hear it from our citizens? Development is not paying for development. And this is a prime subject right now. And nothing to take away from our developers, because we want all of our developers, we love our developers, but it's moving forward and getting something done. I don't think it's 100% right by doing T91, because it doesn't address some of the other issues. It addresses immediately the intersection. But as we're going to be talking about the money, the vice mayor is correct. We don't have the money to do it, and we're going to talk about that next, which we all know where this all comes from. If we build this, it's not the developers that are putting it back into this. Sherry?
Is the school, the ALA, are they providing money too?
For this project, or are you talking about the project?
For the projects to go into their school? Are they helping out with roads or?
That project is the 5-lane widening project from Franklin to the railroad tracks to our edge. I don't know, that's not part of this discussion on this, but I don't know if they, probably not, I don't know.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
Mayor, if I may, real quick, AJ's been chomping at the bit to get in here. I think we'll talk a little bit about traffic flow.
So a couple of things that I wanted to mention. The town, a couple years ago, approved 2 planned unit developments on the north side of the intersection, Attaway Crossing and Northeast Corner. And both of those PUDs, there is language in there. If the town goes first and if the town goes second in terms of what the developer is going to do in terms of their commitments on their half-width improvements on Hunt Highway. So the town was really effective in both of those approval processes. The only approval that they have, though, right now is their ordinance, their PUD. They have not come back to planning and zoning for preliminary plat or final plat. As you know, EBCOR just very recently had their water approved by EBCOR. And you all know that there's a lot of people in line well ahead of that development with residential development, or in line because they had approvals a long time ago. I offer that statement to be very cautionary about the spreadsheet that talked about revenues. I have to point out that the fully constructed intersection of Merrill Ranch Parkway and Hunt Highway has been there for quite a long time, and 3 of the 4 corners are vacant. So I want to lay that out, number one. Number two, the Hunt Highway project around the curve from Fire Station number 2 and through the Magma Channel is a cost that's going to be borne by the town of Florence because there's no developer to build it. We own the land at the fire station, land south. The next property owner is the drainage district. On the other side of the road is a phase of Anthem at Merrill Ranch that has final plat and then the next property owner's EPCOR. Those are utilities. If we're ever going to build a widened Hunt Highway in that part of, along that segment, that is going to be borne by us. There's no developer coming to the rescue there. As Lindsay and Andy alluded to earlier, the cost across the magma channel is a significant price. You know, we're not just going to go buy a box culvert and place it. This is a form and pour in place, and it's a serious infrastructure set that needs to be built in that location. As we look to the east, as Lindsay alluded to, it becomes a little easier as we go to the east. The last thing I would say, and it sounds like there's folks in between decisions here, I want to lay out a couple things. The T91 project has a categorical exclusion on it. It can be built today. The right-of-way is secure. The T112 project does not have clearance. We are at a standstill right now because the federal government is closed. So that environmental document is not being reviewed at this time. Again, I think you all know when we submit for archaeological and cultural reports that when we know it's good to go is when we get a good to go note from the reviewers. So those are all, and then the T112 project does not have any of the right-of-way. So all of those things are considerations. And as Mayor and Vice Mayor Council, as you alluded to earlier, the next topic for conversation is, okay, how do we get the money to build the really big project? So that's not even in hand right now. Also in play is that we do have a CMAR under contract. The number is what the number is today. The number doesn't hold forever. A lot of these things, so when you're making your decision, what I hope to do and what I said there is to give you as many of the facts related to those things to help you make an informed decision. Thank you.
Can I also,
No, actually, Councilmember Buccellato just was asking the CMAR numbers. And I know that we've had this discussion a little bit, so I know that they're not good forever, but can you give us a rough idea what people are saying?
help me, Lindsay, but as I understand, it's a point in time, and so then from the time that they've got these, and what they're calling this is a rough order of magnitude, is what they call the prices that they've given us. And it's to say, this is a point in time from now for the next 60 days, this is the number that they could guarantee us. And so, as AJ points out, some of our challenges are going to be the environmental component. And so we start to run into some of those issues that could make those costs go up. They could come down. I mean, it all kind of depends on what the market's doing.
And also keep in mind when we start talking funding, that more than ever, we are talking with our legislators now, and we're trying to get projects, trying to get funding out of the state. Lindsay and I are presenting on Thursday to the State Transportation Board, trying to grab, I don't know, $8 or $9 million or so, trying to figure out something as well. But there's none of it's guaranteed, and so it's.
Mayor, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Part of what we need to be thinking, what we think about from the staff level is we have the Maricopa Association of Governments, and we haven't used them much. And so what I would also say that if you were so inclined, this is certainly something you could say, well, let's do T91, and then we try and go after the whole full Monty, if you will, for the T112 through the MAG process and go through that TIP process. Keeping the caveat there is that it's a 5-year transportation improvement program, so it would have to take, where we'd have to use some of our own funds as matching funds, but we could go after those federal dollars through the MAG program.
Correct.
AJ, excuse me, could I just get a clarification? We were saying about the developers who goes first, right? So if we go first, does that then take Attaway Crossings out of the money pool? Did they have that clause in their PUD?
The we go first version with Attaway Crossing The developer in the PUD made a commitment to donate the right-of-way, to install the sidewalks, and to provide the landscaping. So the developer would be contributing, if we were to go first, that he would be contributing in those 3 ways per that PUD.
And the turn lane,
The turn lane.
street improvement? those-
No, it would be it's the land,
Okay.
the sidewalk, and the landscaping.
Right.
There's no, in the PUD agreement, there's no discussion on contributing to the half-width cost of the project. It's those 3 things.
All right. Tony?
I thought I remembered, though, they have to put in their right-hand turn lanes coming up Hunt and coming down, and left-hand turn lane coming down into their subdivision.
The developer has the responsibility to build the segment of Attaway north of the intersection. And then, of course, if they receive plat approval, any sort of right-in, right-outs, or full cuts for a public street would be the responsibility of the developer.
All right. Is there any other questions? I think what's really good, too, is we have a number of our planning and zoning commissioners sitting here, and so, which is always a topic, I know, when we start talking about transportation, especially Hunt Highway, Dwayne, for sure, right? So, but, you know, and they're hearing this stuff firsthand, too, and I appreciate you guys being here tonight. All right, is there any other questions or comments? Because what we want to do is give our team a consensus as to the direction that we want to kind of move forward. This is a work session, so this is not a vote. This is going to be a consensus. What's that?
We have to do that before we go through the finances, or?
We can do the finance as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Do
need
it
to do the
first,
finance.
and then we can do it.
We need to do the finance first.
Okay. Very good. Andy and Lindsay, thank you, and AJ, thank you for that, guys.
You want to take a 5-minute, Mayor?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, if you hover over it, it lets you pick which one you want to open.
Okay. Okay.
And then you can just change the tabs after that. Which, do we need that second one anymore? Is that the same thing that they just brought up?
No, don't bring that up.
Oh, okay, so that's something completely different.
I will bring it up.
Okay.
All right, I think we're, what?
You're not ready to go yet.
No?
Let me go up there.
Oh, good. All right, if we can get ready to go here. All right. Carl, it's all yours.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, this next session is to talk about transportation financing. If you recall, we were here 9 months ago, January 13th, talking about transportation and financing. Since that time, Santana's incorporated. The impact of that over the next 10 years is going to be 5.6 million. We're going to get hit next year for about 480,000. And when I did a 3% growth rate, it's going to take us 8 years to get back to where we were at 3%. Now, things can change. HERF can come in higher. But transportation funding, two major sources is HERF, 2.1 million a year when I average that over the next 10 years. And the Pinal County half-cent gas tax is going to bring in 3.7 per year over the next 10 years. And then we have our development impact fees at 300,000, and again, based on market. The street funds, as of June 30th, have 19.5 million in fund balance. 10 of that's in the HERF fund, 6 in the Pinal County gas tax, 2.4 in impact fee funds, and we have 800,000 as a contribution from ADOT for the bridge project. On this slide, I did a 10-year forecast of as it is now and with a new revenue source example. As you can see here, we have $52 million in 10 years of projects. Now this is with T112, so there's $12 million are at play if we go the other way. But if we don't do anything, in 10 years, we're gonna have a negative fund balance of 17 million. If we implement the proposed sales tax increase in 10 years, our fund balance in streets will be 3.7. And in 10 years, and that's with no new projects over the next 10 years based on the current CIP plan.
Carl, real quick, so the current CIP plan is that is not transportation only.
No, that's transportation
That's
only.
transportation only? Okay.
And that has the T112
In it, okay.
budgeted, not the 91.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, go back, please. So it looks like you're keeping her flat and penalty tax flat, right? You're not projecting any growth.
I did a 3% annual growth. Year over year. These are 10-year numbers.
Oh, 10-year number, oh, both of them are?
Yep.
Okay.
So column 1 is without a new revenue stream. Column 2 is with the new revenue stream. And so the revenue stream proposal in this example here is a 1% increase in our TPT, and that would give us $2.4 million a year. In this example, we're taking $15 million interfund loan from the general fund and a $5 million loan from the general capital fund to fund the streets projects for $20 million. The new revenue stream would be $2.4 million over 10 years, and the new debt service would be $23.4. And in this example, we're just paying back ourselves. As I said, the new revenue source, 1% increase, generates $2.4 million a year. This would be funded by local and non-local taxpayers. As daytime population comes in and spends, those revenues would be going into this new rate. This would have no impact on groceries, no impact on fuel, and no impact to residential rental tax. That was eliminated in December. Here's an example. This before column is a fully loaded with current taxes in it. So if we had eggs is no change, fuel no change, but a $12 fully loaded meal would go to $12.12. A refrigerator for $800 would go to $808 with a 1%. Again, the funding, it would be an interfund loan to streets for $20 million, 15 from general, 5 from the capital fund. I just earmarked 3.5% as an interest rate. No prepayment penalty. Our current HERF bond has a prepayment penalty, and we got about 2 years left on that. I did a 9-year amortization in this example, but if we did internal financing, we could dictate that 15 years or however we want to spread that out. The impact if we did this loan from the general fund has $32.5 million. We have $4 million in reserves. We also earmarked $4 million for Santan reserves for the next 3 years to supplement revenue losses. That would leave us an ending balance of 24. With a $15 million loan, we would have a $9 million fund balance. So
And
we
what's
would be
our
safe.
threshold for paying? What's the minimum we want to keep in the general fund?
We want to keep at least $5 million.
So we have $4 million. That's just, we have the discretion to spend. That's not a lot of buffer.
Right. The general capital fund. So we have 18 million. If we took out 5 million, that would take us down. You'll see on this column right here, we would drop down to 11 million, but as revenues come into the general capital fund, it would grow. And I put earmarked in here a police station, fire station 3. That's why you see this drop based on the capital plan. And then these next two slides are identical, however, one has with the funding and one without the funding source. So on this first slide, you'll see if we don't do anything in 2035, we'll be negative 17 million. However, in 2027, we go negative at 6.7. So if we go for T91, you can add approximately 12 million into these numbers. And this is with the new funding source, the new revenue stream, and this is the payment back to the general and the general capital fund. And with this scenario, as I showed on the previous slides, our ending fund balance at 2035 would be 3.7 million. We can add 12 back in based on the project that's selected. And again, this is based on the CIP plan as it is today. Over the next 10 years, we know things are going to change. Priorities are going to change. Things are going to move. Some are going to go up, some are going to go down. I don't have a crystal ball, but wanted to give you guys an idea where we're ending.
So, Carl, this is based on a 1% sales tax increase?
Yes.
Which puts us at what total?
3%.
3%. And where
3%.
does that stand relative to our neighboring communities?
So
Thank you.
I didn't put it in the presentation. I apologize, but I did put them on everybody's desk there where we fall, and I do have it up here. So I bucketed these by the rates. Here's the 2% bucket, and here's 3%. I want to make a note. So Maricopa is currently at 2%. They're going to 2.5. They passed a 0.5% for transportation. Queen Creek's at 2.25. They've just reduced it down to 2. They had a quarter tax rate earmarked for the power center there at where the Target is, and so that's built out, and they're taking that away. So here's where Florence is today, and if we did go to 3, it really kind of puts us in the middle. Florence is on the lower side here.
So on this, Carl, real quick, so obviously that 50, basing the numbers, previous numbers on the other slides at your $52 million of present CIP.
Streets.
On streets. Obviously, if we didn't have the money, then those are projects that are getting cut.
Exactly.
To pay for, then we have to decide what's the most important and try to, because at the end of the day, we work for the town, the whole town, and we know that there's projects in historic downtown. We know that there's projects all over the town that need to be done, and it just goes into trying to balance that act as well if we don't do that. So let me ask you a quick question, and then please, council members, ask questions. So the 1%, now that would be specific ear tagged. I know you've got it under infrastructure. Is that specific to transportation infrastructure?
If the ordinance is written that way, we could write it that way. We would, if we were going to borrow money from the general capital fund to pay that back, we would have to have in the ordinance some wording saying that 5 million, if we use that, will go back to infrastructure. And it just has to do with some legal, the general capital fund is not a bank. It can build street projects, but it can't loan the money. So to get that money back into those coffers, we would put it in the ordinance that it'll fund that back.
But so it wouldn't go into the rest of it wouldn't go into the general fund. It would still be, that portion would be paid back.
Yes.
To the general fund, and everything else would be earmarked for that
Right.
transportation
So
infrastructure.
The new tax would go into a separate fund for accounting, and we would pay back the general fund annually and budget it every year.
But Carl, also, when we earmark it for transportation, it's general transportation, not just the Hunt Highway project.
Yes, yeah, streets.
Could
Streets
that also be
infrastructure.
sunset? Could that also be sunsetted, that we would build that into the ordinance, correct?
We could, yeah. If we do put one in there, it's, if we ever decide to go bond, that will be looked at, and we can't use those revenue streams as a go forward. So that is an issue.
So, Mr. Mayor, I want to follow up when you're saying about this in the CIP projects. If we did this and we run into any hiccups, it will cost the other CIP projects. Here's where I am very uncomfortable. Until 2 months ago, I thought we had this problem solved. We've been talking about Hunt Highway for years. I was under the impression it was San Carlos not returning our calls was why we didn't move forward. My question is, how rock solid are we on the remaining CIP projects? Some of those are very mission critical to our future. Are we solid on those, or are we going to find out we have wrong plans, we don't have right-of-ways, we have incomplete planning? I'm just really fearful of stretching us out to the max and not being able to deliver on some other projects in the CIP that we've also been promising to the public for years.
Well, you got $1 million on, what's the one off of Centennial that's been sitting out there for a while? We're pushing it for that extra portion of the road. So you've got some stuff out there.
We've got, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. So, so I will make this comment. I think we're all in the same boat you are. That again, we thought this was done, and we thought this was going. It's not. And so, and I always like to say this: it's not necessarily our fault, but it's our problem. So we got to get through this, and it is. So I will tell you that I do have a lot of faith in our current staff and what they do and the numbers they're pulling out. I did not have that same confidence, so I don't know that we could pin that back on these guys to confirm that what was left to them is right. But you're absolutely right, because we have no idea at this time. And so, no, good point.
So I've been looking at sales taxes for the last several months. I printed every town's sales taxes from food to transportation to hotels to everything. And unfortunately, I was going to come in and say, we need to go 3% as a town, because we need revenues and we need a stream to try to replace what we're going to lose with Santan and what we've already lost with the state. And I look at that, how many of our residents are running over to the Coolidge Walmart to go shopping for things besides food, and they're paying 3%. How many people are going over there to buy Ace Hardware or Tractor Supply or something else over there? They're paying 3%. It'd be interesting to see where Santan ends with their sales tax. But, we can't compare to Quinn Creek, who's got commercial, revenues coming in big, and they got this big battery plant coming in, and they got 85,000 people. So you can't look down. You got to look at look at the ones above us, even if we go 3%.
Well, it's interesting, Tony, when you look at from the 3% to the right and higher, it's all your small rural communities,
Yes,
because
that's how
we
they're
are
surviving.
all paying for roads. That's how we're doing it. To the left are all the big cities with commercial industry.
But I can tell you right now, go drive through Quinn Creek and some of these other places and see some of the bad roads they have where they're not maintaining them. Well, I think we got some better roads than they do in some of the areas, especially when you get back in some of the older housing areas and stuff.
All right. Councilmember Neal, do you have anything? Please forgive me if we're not looking up there enough to see your hand up or anything. Yell, scream, wave your hands.
Well, I waved my hand a little bit ago, but somebody else said what I was gonna say, so I was good. On this one, it's just, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I said when I ran for council, I remember saying I will never vote to raise taxes, but now that I know, I don't think this is even something we. Don't get me wrong. I know we need to discuss it, but I think it's just time to put on our big boy undies, and we need to raise the tax. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has to be done. What Vincina said made total sense. I mean, you look at Queen Creek and some of these other places. Yeah, we have to raise taxes to keep stride. We have to raise taxes to do what we need to do. Everybody's yelling about roads, but everybody's yelling they don't want higher taxes. It doesn't work that way. You gotta have one with the other one. I live here too. I gotta pay the tax too. So, you gotta do what's gotta be done.
And let's remember too, it's everybody that comes in town to visit and eats and so on to come down to Florence. They're helping to pay this money to make our town better.
Well, and that is correct, and thank you, Snake, on that, and Tony, yeah, I mean, we anticipate and we know that we're on the cusp of our services, bringing our services into town. We know that we've got developers, commercial developers that are coming. it's just what happens to towns like us, and Larry said it a while ago, we are where Buckeye was, but you can't fully count on that, for that, but we do feel that that is. Now, here, and I'm gonna go crazy on a limb here, and so one thing that I always say when we're even looking at or entertaining these kind of deals of raising is this the proper number? Is 3% the number that we're not coming back? Because I will tell you, if I support it, I will stand up and support it to everybody that wants to talk to me about it. But I won't come back in a year and 2 years and say, hey, we probably should have done something different there. We didn't take into account this. If I'm gonna take the good, the bad, or the ugly, I'm gonna take it one time. So I guess I asked Bruce and your team and Carl, do we feel secure with 3%? Trust me, I'm not advocating to raise it anymore, but I'm just saying, hey guys, while we're going to do this, let's look at this and make sure that we're covered for years to come.
Go ahead, Snake.
I think the team needs to go ahead and sit down and look at 3% to 3.5% and do the numbers on it, because that's a totally good point, Mayor. If we're gonna do it, let's do it once. Everybody wants a better town, then everybody chip in and help out. We do it the one time, whether it's gonna be 3.5 to 4. I say we look at it from beyond 2 all the way up to 4, just to make sure to see what we should do, and do it one time, rip the Band-Aid off and get it done.
So, Mayor, we met as the Budget Committee probably about 8 weeks ago, and we started out at 3%, and I'm discussing with the team there. I think we went to 3.5 with a quarter going to general fund to cover revenue losses from Santan.
So let me ask, maybe it's obvious to everybody, not me. If we did T91, we're not talking about a sales tax increase?
I still think we need a sales tax increase.
Yeah.
You're either going to get them in sales tax or you're going to get them in property tax. So throw out the money.
I think we need to
We're
be
going to have to
specific.
replace some revenues.
I mean, we're talking about, we have the money in the bank to pay for T91. We don't have to go raise taxes. If we want to raise taxes for a good reason, that's fine, but it's no longer a transportation earmark.
With you there, but remember, we're down 1.5 billion in shared revenue over the last 2 years, and most of that's not coming back because of the prisoners, right? And then
But we already budgeted
we're going to take
for
a hit from
Santan being
Santan.
incorporated.
That's already
right?
budgeted.
So we need to
So-
replace some money.
Right, but in 10 years, streets will have 3 million, which is nothing, and that's just based
How to
on.
replace money.
the
I hate
CIP.
to see it all go to infrastructure and transportation. I'd like to some of it go into just general fund money.
So I'd like to have a plan as to why we're raising taxes. I was good with raising it if we had to do it for T112, if that's what we had to do. But if we don't have to do it for T112, then I think there needs to be more discussion before I want to raise taxes.
So if let's say we select T1, would you feel comfortable with saying we can select a lower sales tax? Because we budgeted out for 3 years for the loss of income because of Santan. Not saying I want to wait 3 years to raise taxes, but if we did it at a lower rate and started now and built that up, and we've already budgeted that loss, it would put us at a better.
Remember, they've put money aside out of the general fund money to fund that loss for the next 3 years.
Yeah, for
if
the
I
next
understand
3.
it right. So
But that's what I'm saying.
they're
If we
just
start-
covering the loss.
And if we don't put a 17 million in the hole, and we can select a lower percentage, we're doing T91, we're fixing a huge headache, and then we're building on our sales tax now rather than in 3 years, is what I'm saying.
Well,
Logical.
well, like I say, how many residents run to Coolidge to Walmart, to the Walmart to buy other things than food? I can tell you, there's a lot of folks in Florence Mill Ranch that do, or Santan. So 3%'s not killing them going over there.
I mean, we don't have, I mean, we have Safeway and the little market here. We don't really have any huge income sales tax generators like those areas do, so we don't really have a choice. You can't buy clothes anywhere here unless that you're getting at a thrift store. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, like, to kind of kill two birds, to not break people when they're already at their lowest right now. We got a lot of people, I mean, that food line at the Baptist church is getting longer and longer and longer every single week. And I agree with, if we absolutely have to raise them to keep our town in good condition and pristine and in working order, and we're not gonna go and let the roads get neglected, then maybe the logical thing is to say, hey, we are budgeted for 91, and let's do a 2 or a 2.5 instead of a 3 and a 3.5, and then we just meet in the middle on that, and then we can kind of justify that a lot more than putting us 17 million in the hole and then raising us 4%.
Mayor? I guess this conversation is always a touchy one. But just to kind of put things into perspective, the gas tax hasn't been raised since 1991. And so we don't have any other way to fund projects. And so the unfortunate part is that we have to go through tax. And we've kind of, Lindsay and AJ and Bruce and I have kind of wandered through some ideas and some concepts of making some other transportation plans, if you will. We're updating our regional transportation plan, and one of those concepts is actually to bring Plant Road across from Hunt Highway to Butte. And so that's one that I would really like to explore. We've already kind of done some preliminary engineering work to have a low-flow crossing of that particular road. And so you could cross it up to a point of maybe a 50-year event, 50-year flood event. It's almost, I would even speculate that you could pass through it right now based on what's flowing through the Gila River, as kind of an example of what I'm proposing, that we build something. So that provides us with a midsection road, 3 miles between 79 and Hathaway, brings us right into the Butte Road there at the north or the south wastewater treatment plant. And so those are some of those things that we're talking about doing. And then we've got Centennial Parkway that we would like to work to get connected to SR 287. Plant Road is being looked at by developers to tie into 287. So if once we got Plant Road from 287 and we can make a connection across the Gila River, now we've made a connection from Hunt all the way over.
Which is why I don't want to X all those other projects, because there's a lot of good things to help with a lot of congestion in a lot of areas. And that's, the thing is, that one year when all of us in this area of town got locked in here because there was an accident, Attaway was shut down. That's not something that anybody should ever be in a situation of. You got your family stuck in Santan because they can't come in here for 4 hours, and then I'm stuck in here, can't get to my family for 4 hours. It just should never happen, and that's kind of where I'm nervous. I would love 112. I would love to get that flowing much better. I drive that often. I would love to, but that's where the worry comes in, is all these other projects, as you just stated, are going to be stopped, and that's just the honest truth. We're not going to be able to continue with anything else. That one thing may take every single thing.
Councilmember Neal, we seen you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify myself. I'm not gun-ho to just raise taxes, just to raise taxes. We're all staring down a barrel right now, and if we think that not raising taxes is going to help us, we're sadly mistaken. We're in a position to where I don't think there's a choice. We're going to have to tax. For a town to be okay. I mean, there's so many projects that we're sitting here discussing, and we all got to realize projects don't get done without funding. I'm not saying let's jump to 5, let's jump to 6%. I'm saying I just want an open scale to where we have the numbers to where we can sit down and make a great decision for the town on what a tax should be or what taxes should go to where we can do projects. That's it. I mean, the whole conversation has been projects, funding, projects, funding.
Yeah, thank you, and I think that, and what you're saying, and I agree with that too, whether we choose T112 or T91, at this point, we still have $56 million worth of CIP transportation projects that, regardless of where we start, are gonna have to be narrowed. And so that's, yeah, I agree with that.
Mayor, I also want to note, a quarter increase to the general fund would cover our state shared losses. That'd be about 800,000. And, growth, Fire Station 3, that's general fund supported. So these are things, the general fund is going to continue to need dollars. It's going to grow. So if you stand up a fire station, more police officers.
Right. Okay, so then I think for me, another comment that I have is that I also want to, and I know that we had not too long ago looked at our fees, is our construction fees and so forth, trying to look at that. I also believe that there are some of those that could use some adjustment. When we talk about development, plan for development, transportation, our transportation fees that we charge, so I would like to, probably sooner than later, let's take a look at those fees. So we're not wanting to price anybody out, certainly, but we also see that what we're charging isn't doing everything that we need it to do. So, my opinion only. Is there anybody else that has any?
I agree with you. I mean, we need to look at everything for some revenue's sake, because we do need some revenue. Otherwise, there's things we're going to get down to have to cut. And I know Bruce is going to come in crying when we have to say, there ain't no money for that, Bruce. And we got to protect what we have, and we still got things to do in the future. And one of these days, the shared revenue will be better once our population starts creeping back up and gets up there close to Santan and maybe as high. We'll see those revenues 20 years from now get back up from the state. But I've been looking at this from the budget committee for a long time now. I got a stack of paperwork at home, and I'm at that 3 to 3 1/4 easily. I hate to see all three have to go to roads. I would love some to go into general fund for other things, but that's why the T91 looks really impressive to me, because we could go up and still put money to pay that bill and money to come into the town.
So just to clarify then, the two numbers that you guys have been looking at as were 3 and 3 1/4 or 3 1/2?
3 1/2 with a quarter going to general.
Okay, 3 1/2 with a quarter. So those numbers are readily available for council then?
But at the time, it was nothing to roads.
Right. Okay.
But again, that was 3 1/4 for transportation and a quarter for general fund. Now, perhaps we would like to relook at that and re-swizzle. I don't know.
Sure. Well, and I think that's a council conversation as well, and you guys, of course, doing with the budget committee and already start that process. So, okay. Is there anybody else has any other questions, comments? All right. So we've got two questions that we kind of want to get a consensus on moving forward on. So when we look at the two transportation projects, T91, T112, kind of the thought processes, I think we've talked through those. I'll start it off as for myself, it would be the simple fact that there are way more knowns going into T91 because we own the property. We can move forward on that. We can pay for that with the money that we have, and we can start that relatively quickly. So my choice would be the T91.
Can I ask one last question?
Yes.
Andy, for T91 and T112, I know that 112 we don't have the right of way and some things nailed down. What is the timeline to do T91, and what would be your best guess on T112?
Well, the unfortunate part, I think, AJ touched on was that the federal government is out. So that aside, I think that we have some final engineering things that we need to come up with to ensure that we have the exact right-of-way, and we can lay that all out. But I think we could probably start within 60 days. On T91. On T112, I can't, because we have this, there's a whole eminent domain or a purchase of the right-of-way and that kind of stuff.
It goes into me making my decision because I think we want something sooner than later.
Yeah. I'm looking at 91. A lot of it comes about because, we got out-of-way crossings. We got some other things up there. And if we spend the money for T112 now, there's no clawback. But if we do 91 and they come in, then they've got to put money to do their widenings and so on. So that's why I'm saying it's going to be one that we're not fixing Hunt Highway and Attaway totally like I would have hoped to have been done with it for a while, but because of the money, I'm sitting there saying 91 works for me because I really want the developers and anything to come in down there to have to pay their fair share.
Okay. Go ahead.
I also choose 91 for that same reason. I've sat here since we talked about it in e-session, and I've gone back and forth. I've worked the numbers that we were provided that night, and I think it's not a little project. 91's not a little project. It's little compared to 112, because that takes part of a bigger area, takes care of it. But that congestion in that area has always been the main issue, and I agree. I think it would be nice to finally have developers pay their share instead of our residents. So for that, I'm with 91.
Sherry?
I too do 1091. And the reason why is because we can start it quicker. And I think that would put a little edge on everybody that goes that way. So I take that.
Okay. And one last thing. Remember how a right turn lane on Hunt and 79 made people happy.
Yep.
All right, so I was torn between both of them also. And what got me was, with the T112 sounded great until we said, well, now those other projects are going to be, on the back burner. So for that reason, I'm going to go for 91.
Very comfortable with 91. I'm very appreciative of the work that's gone into this with AJ and Andy and your team.
Okay. All right. So it is Snake.
I'm awake. It's already been said. I'm with everybody else on it.
Okay. Very good. So, all right.
I'm not sleeping.
All right. Thank you. Well, all right. So there you go. So once again, I know the vice mayor said it and all the council said it, for being able to put this together, bringing it to us in plain language, just like it was because I was a 112 guy. I mean, I was a 112 guy, and Mo just said it. When we start looking at our money, we start looking at axing projects. I believe that this is, and Tony just said it, just a right-hand turn lane at 79. That made a lot of people happy. I think we're going to make a lot of people happy by just doing this. So, once again, Lindsay and Andy and AJ and Bruce, thank you for what you've done here. So now we've got one other decision to make when we start talking about our funding of our transportation. We've kind of hit this all over a little bit. We kind of need to give staff a little bit of a consensus as to move forward so we can have these conversations and start to have these conversations on the floor. Dwayne, we're going to get it, buddy. Hang in there. So thanks for coming. So anyway, so when we get talking about, we can give our staff guidance so they can start working things through us on the floor, so we can start having these conversations, that we'll look at the possibility of increasing our sales tax as was presented. I'll go first. Again, I think that this is a bigger picture, and we said whether we do T112 or T91, I think it's a bigger picture. Again, I like to say, again, is it's not our fault, but it's our problem, guys. And this has been kicked around, and we've got to get this stuff done, and we got to get this stuff done correctly. So I like what our budget committee has already been discussing. We know that there is a portion of general fund that we've lost. We have these conversations with our legislators as to our dwindling revenues just can't be renewed on the backs of our citizens at all times. And so while we continue to fight that, unfortunately, we've got to look at something. So
can I make a recommendation? I don't know where we're going to go on taxes, but the vice mayor and I are meeting with Andy and the town manager and Lisa on the 20th to do a quarter review and a last year. I don't know if you would like us to further talk about. They've got some time to put some more numbers together and present to us, or you want to hold off on that, Kathy? You're shaking your head.
Well,
From my perspective, we're all here right now. I don't see anything coming out of our meeting that would affect our decision tonight. That's how I feel.
So there's two. You guys talked about two numbers. You talked about 3 and a 3.5 with 25 cents going toward general fund. Do we feel comfortable enough to start having that discussion in comparison on those two figures?
Yes.
Nate? Are you there, Councilmember Neal?
I can't get this darn computer to work.
Oh, no, that's fine. Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with the Hoser band, but I'm comfortable with that also.
Okay. All right. So, Sherry, you want to, so I guess the proposal would be to have our staff and have our team prepare those two numbers that the committee has already been working on at 3% and 3.5%?
Mayor, would you be comfortable, because remember, this requires a notice intent to the public, and then from that notice of intent, we can always go down, we cannot go up.
Oh. Yeah.
Would you be acceptable with us doing a notice of intent for 3.5? That way we can hear from our citizens.
Yes.
3.25, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
3.5, I'm sorry.
3.5.
3.5.
Okay. All right.
So we'll do that
Are
notice
you
of intent.
comfortable with that, Councilmember Neal?
Yeah.
So that's a 3 to a 3.5?
So the comment that Lisa says, we have to advertise an intent, which we would look at the maximum that we're talking, which is 3.5. We can always come down once we get input from our citizens.
I mean, that being the case, we can always come down, and I don't anticipate a 4, but I say we do the 3 to the 4.
Oh, okay, I see what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's doing 4, and then it can come down to 3.5.
Because we can always, like I say, I don't anticipate us going to 4 at all, but we know that's there, and we can come down. We can't go up if we get to 3.5 or over.
4 to me is pushing it, since there's only like 7 towns and they're a lot smaller than we are. And that's why theirs is up there at 4 and 5. So, I mean, 388, you're looking at Payson and Douglas. So, I mean, 3.5 puts us between Globe and that. I mean, but if you all choose to put out four, and we'll decide on listening.
This is
What do y'all
where I'm really not comfortable, and in my way of thinking, I'm very process-oriented. I would have liked to have come through the strategic plan. I would like to see the major big hitters there and what this council and town want to get behind, because I'm hoping there's some new news there. We're basing all this on old stuff and old thinking. It's been in the CIP for what, 10 years, right? So I would like to have the opportunity to consider any potential new endeavors we might like to look at. And I hear what Snake's saying. Since in my heart I can't see my way to 4%, I don't even want to put it out there. Although I hear what you're saying, Snake, is that because we can go lower, we can never go higher. So I think it would be the right thing to do for us to have those blinders on going into this and say, we're not going to spend more than 3.5%, if that.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that thinking. I just kind of want it done to where if it's got to happen, it's got to happen. I don't see it happening. I don't want it to happen, but it's there, it's out there, it's known.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Councilman Snake, but I'm like Kathy. Looking at these numbers, and I've been looking at them for a while and running numbers, I don't see where we need anything above 3.5. But, to where we need to put 4 and then settle at 3.
Right,
I mean,
so
it's a good political tactic. Tell them 4 will be a 3.5.
But, I mean, that's always breaking the news a little easy. Hey, we might get y'all for 5%. You know what? Guess what? We're only going to get you for 3.5. There you go. Everybody's happy.
That's a good point.
I think if our budget committee is saying they feel comfortable with 3 to 3.5, then I feel comfortable saying 3 to 3.5 because they've been in the weeds on these numbers. And even if we don't have the strategic plan right now, we know what we can budget for. And I think I would feel comfortable with maxing it at 3.5. I would love to, but to be honest, I would say max it at 3.5.
Yeah. I'm in agreement, 3.5. Tony?
Yeah, I agree, let's 3.5, and we'll
Okay.
have all the numbers run and look at it.
I concur.
Okay, so then general consensus is that we will prepare that notice, Lisa, for 3.5. Yeah, it's got to be done. So, okay, very good. All right, there is some tremendous direction. So it is 8:20. We do have, we have one more with eminent domain. I don't know that this is going to take very long, so let's plug through. Do we need a break? I know we kind of took one a while ago. Do we need another break? Okay, very good. So item 4D then is our discussion on eminent domain uses and transportation utility projects. And as Lindsay's already at the podium, I guess it's you.
Hey, it's me. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Lindsay Randall, Senior Civil Engineer in Public Works. I'm here to present tonight about eminent domain, but thankfully we do have a policy in place, so this is going to be the revision to the policy. Let me see if I can just, oh, I have to click down here. Okay, so eminent domain, through the authority of the Arizona Constitution, the town of Florence has the authority to acquire real property and exercise the power of eminent domain for valid public purposes with a payment of just compensation. So a little background, the town does have an existing real property acquisition and eminent domain policy. It is long, it's 8 pages long, it's extensive, it has a lot of procedural detail that as a team we felt was not needed. So a final clean version was prepared and is ready for council adoption. The updated draft consolidates the material into a shorter, clearer format. Oh, There we go. So these reductions in length include, it eliminates redundancy. There's multiple sections where original policy is repeated, and the clean version states these requirements once with the references, so it's not duplicated. We have more modernized language, phrases that were updated to statutory terminology. It consolidates administrative details. In the revised version, the governing policy is streamlined, while staff can continue to use detailed checklists and forms to guide them on their daily procedures. And then last, it highlights the statutory authority instead of detailing each of the key statutory references. It just lists them, which greatly reduces the length. So this new policy integrates best practices from Chandler, Mesa, Gilbert. It requires early communication with the property owners, mandatory council authorization before the condemnation actions, and reimbursement agreements for third-party projects. Once adopted, this gives the town of Florence the ability to acquire the real property rights of way and easements for public use in accordance with that Arizona Constitution. So with the new policy, the town council gives the direction to the town manager to negotiate, execute purchase agreements, take all necessary administrative steps to complete closing and recordation. This is a problem that I would say we were having with the Hunt Highway project was it wasn't a clear process of where we were going to go. Once we had these right-of-way appraisals done, who can give us a direction on them? This also establishes a response deadline of 20 days after written final offer to purchase. And even though the town manager has a lot of ability through the direction of the town council, only the town council can authorize condemnation. So in this new guide, it details a few things like what step the process is at and why does it matter, who's responsible, what needs to be prepared, quality checks before moving forward, and the decision gates, the timelines, and common pitfalls of eminent domain. So these are the things that are able to be obtained through this authority of property. Each of them have different designations, although sometimes they're used interchangeably. So we have easements, which is a limited right to use land for a specific purpose. Fee simple, just compensation, public purpose. Right of way is the land reserved for transportation or utilities. And then a temporary construction easement, a TCE, is more of a short-term use, land use that's used during construction. So general principles of this new policy is that the acquisition must be a part of a capital improvement plan or an approved master plan. The negotiations must be conducted in good faith with written offers supported by appraisals. Eminent domain can only be exercised upon a finding of valid public purpose. Council authorization is required before condemnation litigation. All deeds, contracts, and conveyances must be reviewed by the town attorney before execution. So here we have the steps 1 through 10. As I said before, this gives staff a clear way of the process of what we can use as we're going through this. So this is our entire full eminent domain SOP process that would be used by staff. The next slide. This would be a voluntary acquisition process, so they are in favor of letting us use their land. As you can see, it's a lot easier of a process. We have the pre-acquisition, that's part of a CIP. We go through the process, the title appraisal, notice of intent, negotiate offer, the owner accepts, and then we have the closeout and record keeping. But if the negotiations fail, the eminent domain process comes into hand. That's where we send out that final offer letter. There's a 20 days response time. The council would have to approve a resolution authorizing eminent domain and ultimately litigation in court and a payment and judgment recorded title transfers to the town and then the closeout. And that is it for this one.
Yes.
So we've had to use eminent domain I know for sure the last year and a half. Did we ever have any issues come up in purchasing that land, especially like over there at Centennial Park? There was issues with eminent domain, okay.
When we worked on our last project, which would have been associated with Western Crossings, the council that was seated at the time asked us not to use eminent domain and to be able to go in and negotiate out. We did just that. We negotiated. We ended up paying probably $5,000 more than we could have gotten it if we would have done eminent domain. But then again, you have to count in the fact that we didn't have an attorney's fees or court costs associated. So it panned out in the mix.
I will add that still, the closeout officially happened like last month, though, on that one.
All right. Well, Lindsay, thank you for that and putting it on. So these are two touchy subjects, right? One after another here that we're dealing with. So, you know, and eminent domain in a number of jurisdictions that I've been with and worked with, and they're, at the end of the day, the folks that we're dealing with and we're negotiating with, it's their property, right? So they own it, you know, or their family owned it. And and there's a part of me that always, of course, will always recognize that. But there's also the biggest part of this, and it's very spelled out in this policy change, that we also can't hold up major projects with one person or two person without, you know, working through that, or if that ever fails. I have seen it most of the time not fail. I've seen it had to be used that way, but it also, again, we work for the whole town, right, and try to get projects done and do that. And I do like the fact that it comes back to council. It comes back to council. It's for us to decide whether that moves forward. We've always got the say-so in it. And I think as long as we are fair and we work fair, you know, with the people. Now, so when we're doing, and I know that we have a company that we work with,
Yeah.
that they go out and they're doing the actual appraisals and they're doing the negotiations as well. Is that correct, or just the appraisals?
Not the same company, but we do have somebody that is actually doing the negotiation.
Okay, so we have two different companies, and making sure that we are fair and we're offering fair values to them. So my comment is that we absolutely have to have this, and it has to be updated, it has to be current, and we absolutely have to have it as a tool when we move these things forward. Tony?
I fully agree. I mean, we've hired a professional to do these appraisals, just like any house appraisal or anything, and they're doing them right. I've seen the packet, and you know, they're making them a good offer. I mean, you can always sit there and say, well, what's going to happen over there on that piece of road is worth more money to you as a town, so I want more money for my land, and there's a point to it. So they're also going to get more money for their land when they sell it, when we do the roads right. So I'm all for adding this possibility that the council could vote for this into the policy, yes.
All right.
Yeah, I
Vice
think
Mayor?
this is great, as all your work is. I kind of get a chuckle out of, notifying the property owners early. I think that's kind of a good thing. Here's where it falls apart. We have a fabulous team in place today. It disturbs me that we already had a policy, which we clearly just disregarded, because the last time we went through this was Adamsville, where one of our former council members had his property torn up for a water line, right? Because we did not go through this process. I was shocked, and now I'm thrilled to learn about our TAC. We had TAC in our ordinance all along, that was supposed to be enacted. And I think of the hours of work on P&Z that have been saved by having TAC and having a much more substantial, credible plan. So I appreciate this, and we have a new town manager, and I'm sure the policies will be followed now.
It's something that you hope you never have to enact, but if it's there, it's there. I always think about the house on Ocotillo and Ellsworth. They held out for so long, refused to sell 1.1 million for that house, and you just hope it never happens, but it absolutely could. So I think I'm very proud of how the town has handled it, like with the offers for the homes that they had to offer it to. And I think, I mean, it's something we never want to have to do, but we need to make sure that we protect ourselves, because there's that little percentage that will.
So I think it makes sense, you know, keep it in plain, simple language. Having a checklist is so important, because we know how we had checklists and they were never followed. So this is great. I love checklists, and also, like the mayor said, it's good that it comes back to us. So I think it's great.
All right, anybody else?
I just want to add, Lisa put this all together, so big kudos to her for all that work.
All right, Sherry, do you have anything? All right, so then I guess what you need out of us is, since this policy has been largely rewritten already and done, can we get this in front of us pretty quick? Can we get it in front of us Tuesday? Okay. Well, you guys have already done the hard work, so it looks awesome. All right, well, that is the last item for our work session. Brings up item number 5, which is call to council. Does any council members have anything to add? I have only one thing, is this: thank you. You guys are an amazing team. We appreciate our team, and we feel confident moving forward with what we've talked about tonight with you guys. We've got your backs. You got our backs, so we appreciate that. Anybody else? All right.
All right. See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn from our work session.
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.